watching that Dillon Gabriel has went viral after Shedeur Sanders just set the league on fire. Guys, for this one here, we got to go down to North Carolina.
Can Shedeur Sanders play football in the NFL? Well, let's find out together. No more opinions. Let's talk to the tape. It's 3rd and 9. They're going to come with the 5-man pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-man pressure. They're going to play man across the board. Hey, if defense is playing man-to-man, they're turning their back. Shedeur Sanders, he identifies the defense is in man-to-man coverage, so nobody is watching him.
What happens when Shedeur Sanders walks into a game and turns it into his own personal highlight reel? Apparently, Dillon Gabriel turns into the human version of a malfunctioning vending machine, shaking, rattling, and ready to smack anything that took his snack. Shedeur didn't just steal the spotlight, he repossessed it with interest, and Gabriel's reaction was pure soap opera gold. Trust me, you're about to witness a meltdown so epic, it could be its own Netflix series.
Want results, but I think more than anything, it's consistent results. So if you don't have a process you can truly hang your hat on, then you're leaving up to chance, or maybe it's more inconsistent rather than having a strong process. And of course, you know how the game of football goes. There's
Dillon Gabriel, the man, the myth, the quarterback who just learned the hard way that the football spotlight is not something you can put a padlock on and guard like a college dorm fridge. Shedeur Sanders came along, walked straight into his little carefully arranged stage, kicked over the decorative plants, and set up shop like he owned the place. And the worst part for Gabriel, he did it without even breaking a sweat. This wasn't just a case of someone outplaying you. This was a complete public undressing in broad daylight.
First of all, I don't hate Dillon Gabriel. When you're assessing him as a quarterback in the National Football League, I tell the truth, he's a scrub. If I'm assessing him during the college football situations, then he's a game manager. That's not a diss.
Shedeur walked onto that field like he had been born there, like the grass grew just to cushion his feet, and every camera in the stadium had been waiting for him all season. From the first snap, it was obvious that this was no ordinary performance. The man was tossing dimes like Oprah hands out cars. Every throw had precision, swagger, and just the right amount of disrespect to anyone wearing the opposing team's colors. And somewhere on the other sideline, Dillon Gabriel was watching this happen in real time, slowly realizing that he wasn't the star of the movie anymore. He was the extra who gets blurred in the background, while the real hero takes center stage.
But I'm going to answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders. And I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to fail. That's right, I'm going to say it. Okay. Here we are on national television, right? There's been 11 practices, if I remember correctly. He's been starting against he's been playing against the third unit. He's 4th on the depth chart. And then suddenly you throw him into the start lineup, and he hasn't had any reps.
And let's not pretend Gabriel took this loss of attention gracefully. Oh no, this wasn't the stoic, head down, play harder response of a seasoned pro. This was the emotional equivalent of a toddler in a toy aisle after being told no. You could see it in his body language. Every throw after Shedeur's big plays looked just a little more forced, a little more desperate. You could almost hear his internal monologue screaming, "Why isn't everyone looking at me anymore?"
Dillon very good on the whiteboard. Dillon very good at memorizing stuff. Dillon very good in games. He's a terrible practice quarter. I would have no problem saying that. But right now, he's a terrible practice quarterback.
When Shedeur ripped off that first insane touchdown pass, the crowd erupted like they'd just witnessed the second coming of prime Patrick Mahomes. Meanwhile, Gabriel's face tightened, the jaw set, the shoulders stiffened. It's the kind of reaction you get when someone else shows up to your party wearing a better outfit, better shoes, and somehow knows all your friends better than you do. This wasn't just competitive fire. This was bruised ego in its purest form.
I can't help but wonder whether or not they tweak their hamstrings because they carry an extra urgency anyway to prove themselves in this clustered quarterback competition. But now they're going to be pushing to come back, maybe faster than they should. Maybe these injuries are going to linger. And yes, Dillon Gabriel was drafted 2 rounds higher than Shedeur Sanders, but one was available to play on Friday night and one wasn't. And that all counts for something.
By halftime, the storyline had shifted completely. The commentators stopped dissecting Gabriel's throwing mechanics and started wondering if Shedeur had just leapfrogged him entirely in the NFL draft conversation. If you listened closely, you could almost hear Gabriel's agent popping antacids in the background, because in the cruel theater of sports, by the third quarter, Gabriel was practically invisible. He might as well have been standing on the sideline holding a clipboard for Shedeur. And then came the infamous moment, the so-called assault. Now, we're not talking about anything that's going to land in a court case here. This was more like a physical manifestation of all the frustration boiling over. Gabriel, in a burst of competitive rage that felt more high school cafeteria than professional football, took a shot at Shedeur. You could see the frustration in the shove, the hit, whatever you want to call it. It was the kind of move you make when you've run out of football plays and decided to dip into playground tactics instead.
Quarterback. Dillon Gabriel, he's too small. There is a 0% chance Dillon Gabriel is the Browns franchise quarterback 3 years from now. Shedeur, there is a 5% chance Shedeur is the Browns franchise.
Of course, the crowd reaction was instant. Half were shocked, half were secretly loving the drama, and a small but vocal minority probably updated their fantasy football rosters mid-game. But here's the thing, that moment told you everything you needed to know about Dillon Gabriel's mental state. The man wasn't trying to win anymore. He was trying to reclaim dignity that had been snatched away play by play. The optics were brutal. Gabriel's act didn't scream leader or competitor. It screamed, "I'm mad you're better than me today." And in sports, that's the kind of energy that fans and scouts remember for all the wrong reasons. The fans weren't even pretending to split their cheers anymore. You had moms in the stands holding up signs for Shedeur, kids screaming his name, and grown men acting like they'd just discovered their new sports messiah. Gabriel, well, the best cheer he got was probably from the one guy still wearing his jersey in the nosebleeds.
A lot of positives. There may be some negatives, but there's also something to priding yourself on your process and how you work and how you approach it. And for me, I think you build up that process and you want to see results, and it will come. And definitely know that, like I just said, it's a results-based business, so you got to go do it. And that's why we always talk about no excuses. Know what to do and do it. So I think that's the approach, and knowing that.
The post-game narrative was inevitable. Shedeur Sanders. The future, Dillon Gabriel, the guy who didn't handle it well. It's not that Gabriel's a bad player, far from it. But this game revealed a truth that no one in his PR circle wanted out there. When the spotlight shifts, he doesn't just dim, he short-circuits. Social media, of course, had a field day. Memes popped up faster than Gabriel could say it was just a competitive moment. Side-by-side photos of Shedeur smiling after a touchdown next to Gabriel looking like he was about to challenge someone to a fist fight. Tweets comparing the so-called assault to WWE highlights. And the comment sections? Oh, those were a graveyard for Gabriel's dignity. And let's be clear, if Gabriel thought that move was going to intimidate Shedeur, he could not have been more wrong. If anything, it made Shedeur look even cooler. The man barely reacted, brushed it off, and went right back to carving up the defense like it was his personal practice squad. This was a public relations jackpot. He walked out of that stadium with more fans, more hype, and more highlight reels than he probably knew what to do with. And Dillon Gabriel? He walked out with a new reputation. One that's going to follow him a lot longer than this single game.
What Shedeur did Friday night makes me anxious now to see Dillon Gabriel in the preseason, because I want to see what he can do. And look, if Dillon goes out there and he does what Shedeur did, I got no problem saying I was wrong. Then, okay, then Dillon's just a bad practice quarterback.
Because in sports, people don't just remember the stats. They remember the moments, the little flashes of character under pressure. And what they saw from Gabriel was a guy who, when pushed out of the spotlight, lashed out instead of leveling up. That's not the stuff of legends, that's the stuff of cautionary tales. The NFL, college scouts, coaches, none of them missed this. They see a young quarterback like Shedeur who can dominate a game, take the hits, and keep his head. Then they see Gabriel, whose composure evaporates faster than a sideline Gatorade when things don't go his way. You don't have to be a genius to know which of those two you'd want leading your team in a high-pressure situation. And the best part? Shedeur didn't even need to talk about it afterward. His performance said everything that needed to be said. Actions speak louder than words. And in this case, a perfect spiral into the end zone speaks louder than any frustrated shove. And Shedeur, he'll probably keep that moment tucked away as a little reminder that even the so-called stars can be knocked off their pedestal with a few well-placed passes and a little bit of swagger.
And that's just flat out ball out. Now, we know that there's still some naysayers out there that don't want to believe it, and it's okay. But there is this one person that want to shut all the naysayers up and show Shedeur Sanders, well, not show Shedeur Sanders, but show how good Shedeur Sanders really is, and that is Emmanuel Acho.
In the end, this wasn't just a football game. It was a changing of the guard, a moment when the old headline act was replaced by a new one, right in front of everyone's eyes. And for Dillon Gabriel, that has to sting more than any hit he took on the field. Because deep down, he knows what we all saw. Shedeur didn't just steal the spotlight. He rewired it so it could never shine the same way on Gabriel again. And if Gabriel thinks he can just bounce back without addressing that, well, he might be in for more bad news, because the sports world loves a new hero. And right now, Shedeur Sanders is that hero. Meanwhile, Gabriel is learning the harsh truth. In football, As in life, the spotlight doesn't come with your name engraved on it. You have to earn it every single time. And if you slip up, even for one game, and who could blame him? He'd spent the week mentally preparing for his heroic highlight package, only to find out the network was already editing a Shedeur Sanders documentary instead.
A lot of people incarcerated that definitely talk to their friends and talk to me to tell me my friend from jail is, you know, watching you play and watching everything that's going on. So it's just like the world, you know, I say is so small and everything.
Shedeur didn't just outperform him. He did it in the kind of way that makes you check your bank account to see if you still have the endorsement money you were counting on. Every throw was a dart. Every run had just enough flair to make defenders question their career choices. And then there was Gabriel, trying to respond, but looking like a man trying to play guitar with oven mitts on. Second quarter rolls around, and Shedeur unleashes a 40-yard strike that should be framed in a museum. The crowd explodes. Kids are climbing on their parents' shoulders. Mascots are losing their minds. And somewhere in the chaos, Gabriel is muttering to himself like a man narrating his own villain origin story. You could almost see the gears turning. Maybe if I throw harder. No. Maybe if I run more. No. Maybe if I just hit him. Because that's exactly where this thing was headed. Shedeur was making football look easy, and Gabriel was making breathing look like a chore. He kept glancing at the scoreboard, like it owed him an apology, and every incomplete pass seemed to add another log to the bonfire of his frustration.
What you expect shouldn't surprise you. So I'm not surprised by this, Kiana, and I appreciate you giving me my flowers, because at the end of the day, we saw this before against Florida A&M when he first debuted at Jackson State. Florida A&M was ranked in the top 15. It was a torrential downpour down at the Orange Blossom Classic in Miami. Shedeur Sanders, first time we ever saw him play college football, went out there, balled, led an upset victory against FAMU. First time he debuted as an FBS quarterback against a highly ranked TCU squad, he went out there, put up 500 yards and 4 touchdowns in an upset victory over TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. So why wouldn't I expect him to come out here in his debut, show up and show out? Because what we saw from him in this ball game was all of
Gabriel's sideline demeanor after that was tragic comedy, pacing, muttering, shaking his head, classic signs of a man who realizes the narrative is completely out of his control. Coaches tried talking to him, teammates patted him on the back, but you could see he wasn't hearing any of it. He was trapped in his own personal rerun of that shove, wondering how the guy he just tried to intimidate was now playing even better. By the third quarter, this game had stopped being about the scoreboard. It was a psychological demolition derby. Every snap Shedeur took was another dent in Gabriel's confidence. Shedeur was out there tossing touchdowns like he was working the grill at a family barbecue. Calm, collected, and a little cocky in the best way. He high-fived teammates, winked at fans, and generally carried himself like the stadium belonged to him. Which, let's be honest, it did.
There are things that Shedeur can clean up, he will clean up, but by and large, I thought the operation was really good. And that's important when you have different guys in there. There were some guys, you know, playing for us that had recently gotten on campus, you know, so getting them up to speed can be a challenge. But I think the guys did a really nice job, and I think it goes back to with Shedeur or any play.
The fourth quarter was just salt in the wound. At this point, Gabriel wasn't playing to win. He was playing to avoid total humiliation. But that ship had sailed, sunk, and been turned into a reef for marine life. Every time the ball left his hand, you could feel the desperation. Short throws, risky reads, like a man hoping for a miracle that wasn't coming. When the final whistle blew, Shedeur had sealed the deal. Not just in points, but in narrative dominance. He didn't just beat Gabriel on the field. He beat him in the arena of public perception, which in today's social media-driven sports world is the real scoreboard. Post-game interviews were the cherry on top. And the fallout? Brutal. Analysts roasted the shove as a sign of mental weakness. Fans questioned his leadership, and every sports meme account on the internet squeezed every last drop of comedy out of it. The clip of Shedeur brushing off Gabriel's hit is now destined to live forever, right alongside the all-time greats of sports humiliation.
Right, they want Shedeur to play and start, because guess what? That preseason game is going to get record ratings. I thought the game was at Cleveland, but it's at the Panthers. So no matter what, think about all those people, because, hey, Jackson State got a big crew of folks up there in Charlotte. They're going to be in the house. You're going to have people that's going to call them all over that know Shedeur. So they're going to pack that place. So I think, honestly, Coach Stefanski has been the one that say, hey,
Here's the thing about moments like this. They stick. Years from now, even if Gabriel has a Hall of Fame career, someone will bring up the time Shedeur Sanders made him lose his cool. That's the danger of letting your ego run the playbook. You give people a lasting image that overshadows everything else. Shedeur, on the other hand, just got a massive boost. He showed not only skill, but composure. the kind of unshakable demeanor that separates good players from superstars. He proved he can take a hit, literal or metaphorical, and turn it into fuel. And that, folks, is why Dillon Gabriel didn't just lose cool. He lost the narrative, the crowd, and maybe even a little bit of his own self-belief, all because he couldn't handle watching someone else shine brighter